for the upcoming year. The theme for this year is I'm in. I'm in. I'm in a place that's inclusive. I'm included here. I'm inspired here. I come here, I meet good people, I hear good thoughts. I'm inspired. I'm committed to helping this church last, to grow into the next generation. Think of all the different I'm words that make supporting this church worthwhile. So over the next several weeks, you'll get a letter, you'll get pledge cards, and please consider supporting the church for the upcoming year. Thank you very much. Oh, and Janet Kunze is also on the pledge campaign. So you can ask Janet, myself, Kevin Cole will be doing the materials. So it's a joint effort, but consider your commitment to this church and help us be here for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, I guess we're going to start with the prelude. Thank you, Carol. Okay, we're going to have our chalice lighting, and you can find the words on 504. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees, and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birth, day of light, of love and wings, and of the gay, great happening, illuminating earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any lifted from the no of all, nothing, human merely being, doubt unimaginable, you? Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened. E. E. Cummings. I'd like to welcome you all to start with our opening song, page 61, Though the Earth Wakes Again. Please stand if you're able. Our first reading is today on it's number 624, and it looks like I'll be reading if you'd like to follow along. Hope again. God of Easter and infrequent spring, announce the large covenant to deceitful lands. Drive the sweet liquor through our parched veins. Lure us to fresh schemes of life. Rouse us from tiredness, self-pity, wet us for use. Fire us with good passion. Restore in us the love of living. Bind us to fear and hope again. Clark Dewey Wells. And now we're going to have our story of all ages with Pastor Allan.
This story is based on the Christian worship service, and so we're trying to recognize we have a little too much volume, trying to recognize the value of the Christian faith along with other faiths here at All Souls. And so what this does is to suggest that what we do in church is also connected with what we do in our daily lives, and vice versa. So, can you just turn down the master volume? It really feels too loud. Snails live in shells one by one, but we people are creatures who like being together. We want to see our friends often, every day, or at least once a week. Like a dogwood tree that changes its color each season of the year, people dress in different outfits depending on the day and the weather. And so the churches that have formal garb for their clergy and on the altars, those colors change from time to time. We light candles at special meals, on birthday cakes, on windowsills in wintertime. Candles shine up the room like stars sparkle the sky. There's lots of things going on in our lives, sometimes too much. It is good to sit quietly for a while. Like a mother bird waiting for her eggs to hatch, we get ready for new things to happen. And so sometimes we have silence. When we've done something wrong, we admit it, we say we're sorry, and try to do better next time. It's that simple. It's that hard. Maybe when cats lick each other after a fight, they are saying they are sorry. That's the confession. Birds and dolphins sing messages to one another. We people have fun singing together. We sing favorite songs that mean something important over and over again. But we sing new ones too. When the family gets together, grandparents may tell about life in the old days. When night comes, we listen to our favorite bedtime stories. All of these stories help us understand who we are, how things are different, and how things are the same. Life isn't easy. We need other people to hug us when we cry, to be with us when we're afraid, to help us do what we have to do to get us down from the tree if we climbed up too high. Everything needs water to live. We water our plants, we leave water for the pets, we walk through puddles, we floated in water before we were born. We wash ourselves and each other every day. Every day we receive things from others, a drink of water, our allowance, a help from a doctor. A cow moves to be milked, we ask for extra blankets, and somehow even the soil asks God for rain. People have many ways to greet each other, a wave, a pat on the back, a kiss, a handshake, jumping up and down together. We get closer to one another to show that our hearts are trying to touch. Like sharing food with friends at a picnic, we give some of what is ours to others. Sometimes, like a mama cat nursing her newborn kittens, we give more than things or money. We give ourselves for the good of others. When something very important happens, we want to know what's going on. Our heads want to be up high, and our legs want to jump. We are too excited to stay sitting. There are times when we even wish we could fly up into the air to get the best view. One of the differences between people and squirrels is that people say thanks when we receive something. We say thanks for candy, thanks for letting me play in your yard, thanks for the homework help, thanks for the weird present, thank you, thank you, thank you. We know about some things we can't see, like the sun behind the clouds, the pouring rain at night, the secret of a friend, the love of our families. Many important things in life are beyond our sight. At the end of the day, at the end of our lives, when school is over, we say goodbye. With a wave or a hug or a touch, we signal that we'll be back and that we want each other safe until then.
Okay. Okay. So now we're going to do our joys and concerns. And I guess I'm going to start with myself. I want to thank you all for your kindness. I've been a little nervous because I have not been in the land of living for a while, and so I appreciate your understanding and kindness as I do this. I was so nervous I left my phone at home and the whole 9 yards, so what can I say? Thank you, right, probably. And I would just like to enjoy just my family is still around and I get to visit them today, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Things here.
Y'all heard me anyways, right? Yeah. Okay. So, anyone else like to say anything?
We had a nice dinner last night with Janine's youngest daughter and her family at Dave & Buster's. Not my favorite place, but we sometimes, in the spirit of that book I just read, sometimes we accept things about each other that we don't necessarily like, and we do that here in church too.
So I forgot to say thank you to everyone who donated to the holiday appeal. So this is a thank you for that. And also, yesterday I was able to meet another seamstress, which is a rare, event in my life. So someone who I can share what I do and, all of the process of that. It was such a delight. So I'm so grateful for that, meeting someone who shares what you love to do.
I'm supposed to. My name is Edie Ann Halfke, and I'm supposed to share my thoughts and prayers to somebody or a group of some people. So I'm putting a stone for that. And I'm also wanting to share the fact that I'm hoping that my brother and sister have had a successful trip along the way through the southwest part of the United States. So that'll be a good deal. And I'm hoping that they've had a great trip and all that. So, okay, danke.
So I have a stone to share. It's not a concern, but to commemorate a longtime member, Joan Reddy. Her youngest sister passed away. It was quite a long time with cancer. And anyway, Joan is going through a lot right now. And so if you know her, please extend your thoughts and your thoughts to her.
Good morning. This is a stone of concern for my little dog. He was diagnosed with kidney disease. So we're learning about a new diet, and I'm finding that I'm pretty old to be getting up 5 times during the night to let him out. So we're hoping to iron things out.
And a final stone for all the thoughts, joys, and concerns unsaid, and to allow it to ripple out into the world. Thank you all. We'll have a moment of silence. Okay, we will start with our second reading, which is number 628. I'll go ahead and read the regular print, if you'll read the italicized. Rolling away the stone. In the tomb of the soul, we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness, fears, regrets, worries. In the tomb of the soul, we wrap ourselves in the security of darkness. Sometimes it prepares us for experience, sometimes it insulates us from life. In a season where light and dark balance the day, we seek balance for ourselves. Sarah Moores Campbell. Now we're going to move on to our second song, 344, A Promise Through the Ages Rings. Please join and stand if you're able. And now I'd like to introduce Allan with his message for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy, and thanks for being our coordinator on short notice today. The simple message of Jesus. Here at All Souls, we claim to welcome everybody, and we want our children to grow up knowing about other faiths, and so we try to inform them, teach them. Sometimes in that spirit, we maybe neglect the Christian faith. There's so many that are familiar with it, and then so many that aren't. And I'm thinking of the words of my favorite UU author, Robert Fulghum, who wrote in one of his books about how he tries to explain what the UU faith is all about, and people will say things like, well, do you believe in God? And, well, that's complicated. Some do, some don't. Depends on who you ask, depends on when you ask. Well, are you Christian? Well, that's complicated too. Some are, some aren't. Some used to be, some will be. And so in that spirit, we sometimes have to show our flexibility. And today I'd like to reflect on some of the positive things about the Christian faith, which we may sometimes neglect, maybe sometimes underappreciate. So when I was in high school, the teacher's name was Mr. Johnson in English class. I think you should turn the volume down just a little bit. And one of the things that I remember vividly from his class was when we were studying one of Shakespeare's plays, and I'm not sure which one, but he said the theme of the play was power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that was just a very vivid memory in my mind. And so I think when we think about what happened to the first followers of Jesus over the centuries, that's a theme that we can latch on to. And so we know that the first followers of Jesus were really commoners. They were the people at the lower levels of society, and they were often hungry much of the time. And so the one story that's found in all four of the Gospels is the feeding of the 5,000. And that must have been a really important event. And when you think about it, you know, the kid has 2 loaves, 2 fish and 5 loaves. And what is that among so many? The disciples asked. And apparently they shared. And that is reminiscent of the story that Dan told a while back about in northern Cameroon when he had met some boys who were out playing soccer, and he had some cookies, and one boy came running up to him and he gave the one cookie to that boy. And then some of the other boys came around, and that boy methodically broke the one cookie up so that he could give one to each one of his friends who were playing soccer, not knowing that Dan had other cookies in the box. But I thought, you know, yeah, that didn't happen in America. But that spirit of sharing. And so that's how the so-called liberal theologians interpret the feeding of the 5,000, is the fact that this boy had some food and Jesus blessed it and started to share it, and then everybody started to share the food that they had brought along. And so everybody got fed. And it was just a matter of, it was the right time to take your food out, and there were probably some who had more than others, and maybe some who didn't have any, and so they shared so that everybody got fed. And that was important in that society where these were the common people who were hungry much at the time. And that was true for the early centuries of the Christian movement, is that it was, as the Paul wrote to the people in Corinth, not many wise, not many mighty, not many of noble birth have joined this club. And so that's how it was in the early years. And then in the early 300s, Constantine, who was the emperor, converted to Christianity. And that's become a little bit of a simplistic explanation, because now there's research that suggests that Constantine's conversion and this vision of the cross, which was painted by Raphael, and a lot of people have seen that picture, that was painted much later. And as a matter of fact, now you can go to Rome and you can see the Arch of Constantine, not very far from the Colosseum, and it's his triumphant arch, and it doesn't have any Christian symbols, not even a cross on it. And so at whatever point in his life that Constantine had that arch made, it wasn't a big deal to include anything about Christianity. And so it may have been not so much a conversion of the heart, but something more for political reasons. And the suggestion is that the upper echelons of the military and society were part of the Mithra religion, and that's a whole nother story. But Constantine wanted to appeal to these commoners who had joined the Christian faith, especially the soldiers who had become Christian, because he needed them for his campaigns around the Roman Empire. And so in order to appeal to these Christians, he needed to display the cross and try to make it something that they would buy into. So that's a little bit about history, but as it became then the official religion of the Roman Empire, and then there was the Holy Roman Empire, and so now the popes and the emperors were all in collusion with each other and sharing the wealth, and whoops, remember, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what we see throughout history, from the Crusades to the Inquisition to the justification for apartheid in South Africa and Manifest Destiny in the United States. That was supposedly God's will to take over the entire North American continent. And so we have those abuses and excesses, and so-called heathens were baptized with fire hoses and all of that. So with that in mind, we think about also the fact that in many cases, those who were once oppressed become the oppressors. And so you can think of the Hutus and Tutsis in Africa, or the Bosnians and the Serbs in Europe. And there are other examples as well. And so there's, unfortunately, a lot of examples of power corrupting and absolute power corrupting absolutely. Well then, coming back to Jesus, if I were to ask some of you, what is your favorite Bible verse? Some of you would have an answer. It might be something that Jesus said. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Or the Beatitudes. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall have mercy. And the list goes on and on. You can think of your own favorite ones. One of mine is the consider the lilies of the field. They neither sow nor spin, and how beautiful they are. And the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap, and your Father takes care of them. So do not worry about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall wear. There's enough to worry in one day, so do not worry about tomorrow. Today's trouble is sufficient for the day. There's, come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. There's, the list goes on and on. You've got your favorites. Less well known is the passage in Matthew 18, where Jesus said that if your brother offends you, go and talk to that person face to face. And if you don't achieve some kind of reconciliation, then bring a witness, or maybe 2 witnesses with you, and try to talk it out. And if you still don't figure out how to resolve this, tell it to the church. Well, we have an echo of that in our UU directory, where we have this behavior covenant, which says that when there's a conflict, go directly to the person where there is a disagreement or conflict. Having an agreed upon third party meet is the second stage. And then agree to meet with an assigned committee to work out the disagreement or conflict. So we do appreciate that principle from the New Testament. And one of the most powerful forms of reconciliation that I can think of in modern history is in South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that was brought about under Nelson Mandela after he became president and apartheid ended. And they brought together people who had been the oppressors with those who had been oppressed, and they shared what their experience had been, especially the experience of suffering. And they were able to find ways to face each other and not vow revenge, but instead to find ways to go on with life in this world, in this society, and have some of that hatred dissipate and have some form of reconciliation. In Canada, they have done something similar with the Native American population. And Canada has a Reconciliation Day on September 30th of every year now, ever since 2021. And for some, it's a paid holiday. We have yet to do anything like that in the United States, but those are examples of how The message of love and forgiveness from Jesus has continued to have a positive effect in the world today, and how much it's needed in the world today. The simple message of Jesus, as I see it, is love your neighbor as yourself. And that's, of course, a quote from the Old Testament. It wasn't original to him. But he went on to expand on that at the end of the Lord's Prayer, which a lot of people are familiar with. And if you read it in Matthew chapter 6, the very next thing after thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory and forever and ever, amen, he says, for if you forgive those who have offended you, your heavenly Father will forgive you. But if you do not forgive those who offended you, your heavenly Father will not forgive you. It's a pretty harsh, double-edged sword, but that's what he said. And so that was, in some sense, the most important thing that we say if we say that prayer. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And so that, to me, is what Christianity has to offer to the world. You know, you think about all the different religions and what their contribution is, and they all have something valuable. And in my mind, the message of forgiveness from Jesus of Nazareth is the most important thing that he offered, and that some Christians continue to live by, some better than others. But you can also think about the flip side, when people have become too powerful and too haughty, and then again, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I've been thinking about Abraham Lincoln lately. I found this quote, and it's in traditional language where they use the word men to refer to all people, male and female. But Lincoln said, nearly all men can stand adversity to test a man's character, give him power. And I carried that a week ago. I don't know if anybody saw it. So we have this idea of hearing about the 4 presidents that are on Mount Rushmore this year because of the 250th anniversary of our country. And we have a volunteer that's going to talk about Teddy Roosevelt, but we need somebody for the other 3. So if any of you would like to read up on Lincoln, I think it'd be a fascinating thing to do a talk that would look at Abraham Lincoln, what he did and what he said, what he wrote, through the lens of UU principles and values, the ones we have on the back of our printed program every Sunday. The 7 principles that we're all familiar with and we're all fond of and we don't want to give up. And then the 6 values with love in the center. I'm glad they put love in the center because they did capture that part of Jesus' message. And of course the others, equity and justice, and I can't think of all of them now, but the acronym is JET-PIG, you know, justice, equity, transformation, PIG, generosity, pluralism, and what's the I? Interdependence? Yeah, okay. JET-PIG is the acronym for that. Anyway, look at Lincoln through that lens and write something up. I would love it if one of you would volunteer to do that this summer. So just a thought. But getting back to that idea of forgiveness, I wrestled to find a couple of practical examples. And And sometimes I don't remember much of what I've said in the past, but a couple of things that come to my mind, which you may or may not remember, was in a talk some time ago where one of the examples of reconciliation was a Holocaust survivor who went to Hitler's summer cottage in the Alps in order to be able to find within himself or herself a way to forgive Hitler. And that was a concrete action. It seems kind of bizarre in some ways to go to the spot, which was luxury, but that's what she did. Another example from that talk was from Northern Ireland, when the Irish Republican Army had been fighting hard and planting bombs. And then some years later, there was this expedition that was created for people from both sides to go on this wilderness expedition where you'd be doing a lot of hiking and survival skills together. And at one point, a woman whose legs had been blown off by a bomb set by the Irish Republican Army needed to be carried across a stream. And so she was carried across by a former member of the Irish Republican Army. And in that moment of dependence and interdependence, that was a symbol of reconciliation and forgiveness. And so it is possible for people who were bitter enemies to be able to forgive. The original meaning of forgive is to let go. And you can think of the song from the children's Disney movie, Let It Go, Let It Go. There's a nice practical application of that beautiful word, to forgive. Sometimes you just have to let it go. And to me, that is the simple, not easy, but simple, uncomplicated message of Jesus of Nazareth that we would all do well to live by and remember, especially on Easter Sunday. May it be so.
Thank you, Allan, for that inspiring message today. I think we all need to hear that, or I know I do. Thank you. Today we're going to have an offering, and half of today's offerings are going to go for South Dakota Voices of Peace. We can now say the words or read the words to receive the offering. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. Our final song today will be Loveliest of Trees, number 98. If you'd like to stand, if you are able, and sing along. Our final reading today is number 631. I'll read the regular print if you'd like to say the italicized. Passover. What sacrifices would we make for freedom today? How far would we go? How deeply would we look within ourselves? Yet we, who have that time, what do we do to be worthy of our precious inheritance? How easy is it for us to relive the days of our bondage as we sit in the warmth and comfort of our cedar? Thank you. Now we're going to extinguish the chalice. The chalice is extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world. Thank you. We'd like to join everybody downstairs for refreshments, and then we'll be back up here in 20 minutes for circle discussion. Thank you.